everything. You end up in the AWA, you do the camp. Now, as I said on the previous interview, I used to interview Dom Morocco every week. I used to do a podcast with Dom. And
Really?
he used to tell me stories about back in the 70s, like the very first camps they did in the AWA, and it used to be Billy Robinson and Verne himself and some other guys like that. So what were the differences, as far as you were told, from the 70s training camps to the 80s training camps that you were involved with?
Pretty much no differences, because when after 5 hours a day of torture, Billy Robinson and Verne Gagne would come down and what Stu Hart called take you to the mountaintop. Um, you could barely, you're in your swallowing in your puke, whatever you might be crying that day, whatever, depending how bad you're hurting. You weren't actually crying, but there was that type of feeling of you were pretty much a jellyfish after 5 hours with Brad Reagan's. And Verne and Billy would come in and they would put you in for maybe a good hour straight, every submission hold they knew. And they would take you to the mountaintop and then ask you over and over, do you want to quit? Leave. You can leave right now. And you're screaming. I mean, screaming. I mean, they knew how far to take you before you blew out your knee or ankle or snapped your arm or your neck or whatever they had you in at the time. And you were helpless. You couldn't do anything. And I tell, it's like the ringing of the bell at Navy SEALs training at any time. If you don't like what you're doing, if it's too much for you, get up and go ring the bell. You go home. You know what I mean? But we weren't doing that. I mean, they could have broke my leg. They could have broke my arms. They didn't. Like Hiro Matsudo did the Hulk in Florida. Some guys they did do that too.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? See if you came back, snap your leg or something. But they took us to that, like I said, Stu Hart called it taking you to the mountaintop. And you were at the top of your pain threshold and you're asked over and over, leave, can go. Why do you want to be in this business? You're a piece of shit. What the fuck? Get out of here. And you just scream no. You know what I mean? No. Because we couldn't leave. We wouldn't leave. We couldn't.
How many people started that camp that you were in?
Maybe 17 to 20, I think, in the beginning. And after maybe 2 weeks or more, it was down to 3. They weeded you out real quick. They didn't fuck around back then. They wanted who didn't want it to be gone immediately. A lot of bodybuilders with, I mean, impeccable bodies and stuff, but just couldn't mentally or physically take the abuse. You know what I mean? That's all I could say. I mean, not that I'm not saying I'm Superman or nothing, but I don't know. We couldn't go home with our tail between our legs. There was no leaving. We were living in Brad's basement. We weren't leaving unless it was in a body bag. And we just endured it. As the worst thing I've been through in my life ever, as far as I've been wrestled since 3rd grade up through college football, 3-a-days. Fought all my life. That was the worst thing I've been through in my life, but I've never been in better shape at that point in time and never will be in that good a shape ever again in my life since that point in time. Period.
When you got through, now did Verne charge you up front, or was there a sort of percentage thing of future earnings that he was trying to get out of you?
He did. I heard he might have did that with some guys, but we gave Brad some money uh, to train us, to Brad Reagan's, our coach. Nothing to Verne Gagne at all. And we lived at Brad's house, and he became like a best friend, father figure to us. We became very close, and I think it had a lot to do with the way we came in, because we worked hard just to get to that point. But before we left, our close friend that I grew up with was Matt Millen. I don't know if Knobs talked about that, from the Oakland Raiders.
No.
Well, I was from Hockendakwa, Pennsylvania. That's an Indian name that we call it hockey. Matt was our paper boy, and the Millen family was very close to my family. Matt was we were a big football, American football area. So if you weren't on the football field, you were in the wrestling ring getting ready to play football, for training. In the wrestling mat, put it that way. So when we did finally, George Steele did give finally, after, I'm sure Knobs told you that whole story. When George finally gave us the connection, we trained with Matt, who just finished his rookie year, and they won his first Super Bowl with the Oakland Raiders. He was a middle linebacker, and we trained with him because we wanted to be in the best shape, and he helped us. And when it came time to call Brad, we had introduced ourselves to Brad. Then we said, would you like to talk? We've been training hard. If there's anything else you want to do. And we gave the phone to Matt Millen. We were at his gym at his house. And Matt Millen and Brad talked for 45 minutes. And as time went on, I see the expression on Matt's face changing. You know what I mean? Because I was probably 300 pounds. In my first or second year of college, I had about a 500, maybe 20-pound bench, power lifted, weight lifted, a lot of weightlifting in high school and college, and been through training and football 3 a day, all that kind of stuff. And at the time, we were more concerned of weightlifting and strength and being strong and all that kind of stuff. And after Matt hung up the phone, him and Brad talked. They became friends, actually. Matt had a look in his face, and we go, "What's wrong? Is he doesn't want us to go?" And he goes, "No, I got to tell you, you two, you have to get in way better shape." We went, "What? Way better shape for what?" I go, we're training, not this kind of shape. Doesn't matter how strong you are. This is a different deal. What do you explain to me? Not knowing what was in store for us. It was the toughest camp in the world. The only one that could probably compare to it would be Stu Hart's dungeon. Him and Verne Gagne were two peas from the same pod, put it that way. Much respect for the Hart family and Stu, very good friends of ours. And Verne Gagne and Tully Blanchard's father were huge amateur wrestlers. Brad mentored Brock Lesnar. He's like his father, like he was to us. The Iron Sheik came up to us when he first went to WCW and introduced himself. And the words he said to us were exactly this. He said, "I'm the coach of your coach." That's all he said. Instant respect, knowing, because he coached that camp with Brad. When he left Iran with the Shah, Verne Gagne brought the Sheik in because of his respect for amateur wrestling to coach at the University of Minnesota, where Verne Gagne was from. He's big Minnesota. And then the Sheik moved on to coach and train with Brad Reagan, and the Iron Sheik in their prime. I would put any of those two men, human beings, against any person on the face of the earth. If they got their hands on you, you were pretty much over and dispatched in a matter of seconds. That's a fact. I've never seen nothing like it in my life. Tremendous athletic ability when it came to wrestling. If you get somebody trained like that, like Sheik or Brad, any of those guys in that realm, their hands are on you, you're done. I thought I was a badass fighting and stuff. In a matter of seconds, I was screaming for my life. That's how quick it was. And they did that to many, many people. I would say hundreds tried to go through that camp. If you listen to what Ric Flair says, Don Morocco, Ricky Steamboat, on and on and on, it never changed because old school, they just like any of the top elite, if you're with the British Special Forces, if you're with the American Navy SEALs, the top of the top, they want to wean. The old school way was we only want the best. Not saying I'm the best, but in your mind, I met a lot of our bodyguards in England. They weren't like college graduates, the special forces from England that we met. They were badass human beings and good guys, just good old beer drinking guys. But they picked these guys not from Harvard or colleges and education. They picked these guys from the streets, from Wigan, badass territories, that mindset. I go, really? That's a different thing because a lot of the Green Beret and stuff are highly educated, speak multiple languages and different things used in a different way. But making it through that period, that camp, that's a respect you have for the rest of your life, no matter who you are and what you do and what happens to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anybody from Don's era to Rick, to Ricky Steamboat's era, to Kurt, to Vader, Ricky Steiner. You got Ricky Steiner through some of the toughest wrestling camps in the United States, the University of Michigan, so on and so on. Put him into shock. You know what I mean? And that, that's an amateur, top collegiate amateur wrestler. That respect went on through Brad from us to guys like the Iron Sheik and Masa Saito, who was Brad's best friend, who later, when Masa got out of prison, which we went to see in Wisconsin, booked us in Japan. And there was a respect there because in Japan, you're either a sumo wrestler, you have some type of martial arts, or mainly Greco-Roman or amateur Olympic athlete that comes into their realm of professional wrestling over there. And once you got through it, I don't know how I did it or how we did it, but we did it. You really achieved something in your life and learned a great respect for the business.